Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Last week I posted in the YouTube community asking for questions to be asked for my friend Tyler to answer for you all. He has a background in computer science. He's a full stack engineer, also an educator, content creator, author, boot camp instructor, and so on. So, Tyler, anything I missed or left out?
Oh man, it's over generous already. Thanks for having me on.
Definitely. Thanks for coming on. So let's go ahead and jump right into these questions. First question: if I want to build a great website, can I do it only with the fundamentals?
Yeah, so I think this question is asking if you can build a great website with just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and not, say, use a web framework or something like that. And I think it's totally possible. You can absolutely, under the hood, right? Any web development front end tools are just JavaScript code in the end. So you can do it, and it can be a really good learning experience to kind of build something from scratch using only the rawest JavaScript. It'll help you understand JavaScript better. It'll help you lay a foundation for using and learning other web frameworks in the future. It might not be the greatest idea from like a career standpoint. There's not a lot of jobs left in that industry. If you can do something just with, plain HTML and CSS, for example, WordPress or Squarespace can do a lot of that out of the box. So there's not like a bunch of consulting jobs like maybe there used to be in in that field. It's definitely possible. It's definitely a good learning experience in my opinion, but not something that I think you should commit to do over and over again. Those web frameworks and tools exist for good reasons because they're going to make your life easier.
Right. Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to have to know how to do what you're talking about, but you got to move past that point. You can't just get there and then stop and say, okay, I've made it. I know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I'm good. You got to
Yeah, that's
continue
right.
on, picking up the other more advanced technologies.
I think there's a lot of value sometimes when I go back to do projects that are just raw and no web framework or anything like that. It's to learn a new emerging standard. So like, I had to go back and learn promises. I want to do promises without a web framework. And then when await and async came out, okay, I want to go write some code that's await and async in a website, but I don't want to bother getting a web framework up. Or when, WebAssembly is a good emerging standard for this kind of conversation. Maybe you want to do something very raw to help you learn WebAssembly or web components or something like that. And then, once you've learned it the raw foundational way, then you can more easily wrap that work into the context of some existing web framework.
Definitely. So the next one is how to be a good system analyst or a developer. So it's kind of a broad question. I think we can kind of give it a blanket answer. In my opinion, just with anything that you want to be good at, you just have to practice, practice, practice. With development, especially, my advice is always build something. The moment you have enough skills to understand the basic syntax and everything, then go ahead and start putting it to use. Because you want that muscle memory. You want to be able to have all the fundamentals under your belt. And in order to do that, you really got to build, half a dozen or more little websites with everything you've just learned. And the same is going to go for when you get to intermediate and advanced level topics as well. If you don't use it, you lose it. Just keep coding, making projects. That's how you're going to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep on practicing, keep on working, and don't discount some of the softer skills as being important in those contexts too. A big part of being a great developer in any kind of situation at work these days is being able to communicate with the rest of your team, being able to communicate with other shareholders and stakeholders who care about the work that you're doing, explaining why the work you're doing matters and how it's going to help the company achieve its goals and stuff like that can really, really help. One other thing I'll say is seek feedback in that process. Don't just build things in a box, but go find people who also work in the areas that you're interested in. See if they have any advice for you. See what they think about your applications, and be open minded. Take feedback in the spirit that it's given. And that is to say that people are giving you feedback, hopefully, because they want you to be able to improve. So try not to be too defensive when you seek feedback.
Yeah, definitely. That's huge. Being able to openly take constructive criticism and use it for what it's supposed to be used for to better yourself. Because
Right.
the
That's growth.
yeah, the moment you have an ego, that's you're just gonna kind of stop yourself short. Okay, good question. So the next one is, what kind of projects should I add in my website portfolio And then what qualities from my projects do employers look for?
Mm. Oh yeah, I love it. I actually wrote a little article about this for a French company, Coders in the Jungle, which I think you responded to this comment with.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, okay, so I mean, there's lots of different ways to have a great portfolio. I would say, above all, first and foremost, commit to making something high quality. Never put something that's half baked on your portfolio or your resume, because that's a signal to your potential employers that you think half baked is done. So if you're going to start a portfolio project, most important thing is pick something that you're going to be excited to finish and really, make it look good, which also means sometimes it makes more sense to pick small projects. I see a lot of developers, especially early in their career, have these really ambitious goals and say, I'm going to make a portfolio project that's like clone website that's existed for 10 years. And I think to myself, they've had a team of engineers for 10 years. How much of a clone are you going to do?
Yeah.
And sure, lots of that work is behind the scenes, and scaling it out is a huge part of big company work. But if you're going to make a portfolio project, I think the Linux philosophy is a good one. Pick one thing and do that one thing really well, because employers really want to see that you can finish a project and that you can commit to making high quality stuff. So that's one aspect of a good portfolio piece to me. And then another aspect is you want to make things that speak to the kind of work that you want to have. So, for example, let's say you're a web developer, but you want to get into the world of software security. Your web development projects that used to be really relevant to your work and really relevant to your portfolio are a lot less relevant when you start applying for those like penetration testing or security engineer jobs. So think about what kind of work you're going for and what kind of work you want to be doing, and then you can pick a project that speaks to that that work that you'd like to be doing. And the converse to that is never put something on your portfolio that you're done doing, that you don't want to do anymore. If you've decided web development is over for you, your portfolio shouldn't have web development projects, because you're sending a signal, hey, what I'm good at is web development. And those are the types of recruiters. They'll start reaching out to you, and when they see your resume and it's only got web stuff on it, they'll be like, oh, it's web developer, right? So
Mm-hmm.
don't focus on work that you don't want to do anymore.
Definitely. Something I've seen lately popping up on my phone in my news feed are developers who write articles about projects they've created.
Oh yeah.
And they're just trying to say, like, hey, look, I did something cool and I want to share it with you all, but it serves a double purpose, because then, I mean, there are going to be employers who see that and they say, oh, okay, this guy has a passion for what he or she is working on.
Yes.
And that speaks volumes about, what they may have, the potential for them as an employee for, said company. So stuff like that
Completely.
is good too.
And there's lots of good ways to write stuff. That's another thing, is making a whole new project, like a whole new website for web developers, or, some other piece of software for some other, doing a whole machine learning, exploratory data analysis, something like that, can be expensive in terms of how much work it is. But an article shows a lot of things that employers really care about too, like you said, passion, and also, ability to write and communicate in writing. And that's a separate signal from your skill as a developer. So, another example of a great project would be like writing a tutorial for something that you've done a lot of times. That is a quality that, your lead and senior developers really should have. So if you can write tutorials, that's a sign that you'll be able to help the younger employees at your work come up to speed and learn technologies, and learn specifically the technologies at your company, right? So I think writing articles and stuff like that can be fantastic portfolio pieces.
Definitely. One last thing I'll say about it before we go off on too much of a tangent. In terms of writing, if you are working with a tool or a node package or a Ruby gem or whatever it is that doesn't have good documentation, but it is a good tool, then write some documentation for it, which is kind of along the lines of writing a tutorial. But documenting stuff is also helpful. It's on one hand, it's
Yes.
contribution to open source, which will get your name out there a little bit, but also it circles back to the whole being able to communicate well. So
That's right. That's right. And it's assigned to employers that you can document code. Your employers hopefully want well documented code at their place of employment. And it's a beautiful gift to the community. I think all of us have worked with a package that has poor documentation, and that sucks.
not
Nobody
gonna
likes
name
doing
any
it.
names.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
they're out there. Awesome. Good question, Manny. Okay, so the next one, another question from Angel Santiago. He was on here last week. How to transition from a full stack developer to a UX or front end developer?
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah. So that's a great direction to go if you're more interested, especially in the human aspects and the human computer interaction aspects. When you're a full stack developer, a lot of the time your clients are other engineers. You're making a database schema that another engineer is going to have to understand and use later, or you're working on how to process the data in an efficient way. And when you're on the front end, it's a lot more about designing user interactions that people can use and understand, and guide your customers through the flow that your company wants your customers to get guided through. So I would say, if you want to transition from back end to front end, I mean, first of all, you're going to have to get comfortable with JavaScript. If you're not already speaking JavaScript, you're more of like a, I don't know, Python or Java or C or whatever you're doing on the back end. The language of the front end is JavaScript. And although WebAssembly is coming out, and starting to be standardized, I don't see JavaScript's reign ending in the next, 3 to 5 years. It'll be there. So learn JavaScript, learn HTML, learn CSS, and learn CSS well. I think that's something that tons of full stack developers have a lot of fear around or frustration around, and lots of back end developers talk a lot of smack on CSS. And understandably, it can be confusing and hard, but it's also extraordinarily powerful. You can do a ton with it now. So think about learning interactions, think about learning design principles and how to guide customers through an experience. Think about wireframing and how to prototype things before building them, before investing the time to like build out a JavaScript animation, figure out a way to test that animation and show it to people. Those are some areas of skill that I think a lot of back-end developers don't have, and when they start transitioning to the front end, become a lot more important.
Definitely. Cool. So this one is I wanted to ask you about the future of technologies. As I'm learning full stack development, many of my friends are doing machine learning and data science.
Mhm.
The problem is those technologies are super trending, and my jobs are also, or many jobs are also available too. So I wanted to ask you, should I be committed to full stack development, or should I change my path to one of those mentioned technologies? Most of the time, they, assuming you're talking about your friends, make fun of full stack development, and it makes you question whether or not you have a future in it. And coming to the USA for master's next year, and want to stick to some good tech, which can help you in laying a high salary, also have a good future in it. Okay, we will. That's a lot, so we'll address that first before we move on to the second half. First and foremost, don't be afraid to stand up for whatever it is you have a passion for. I know you mentioned wanting a high salary, and that's fine. Most people do, but you also need to prioritize doing something you enjoy. And if you don't have any interest in machine learning or data science or AI or anything like that, then there's no reason for you to go into that field. You should definitely pick something that you're going to want to wake up and be excited about before, whether or not it has, a higher salary potential than another technology.
Yeah, totally. I think that's true. It's really important to enjoy what you do. And, quite candidly, if you don't enjoy what you do, you won't be good at it either. And that's not to say that you couldn't learn machine learning and learn to enjoy it. But if you don't think that that's the direction that you want to go, if you don't think that's what you want to spend your time doing, maybe it's not. And that's totally okay. So on the one hand, your friends are right that AI is trending, and, blockchain, although not so much anymore, that's now deflating, right? So trends can be dangerous. You can hop on trends. Like, a bunch of people learned crypto to get on blockchain, and now they're like, oops. That's not as hot as maybe it was. And that's not to say that blockchain's over. There will still be some whatever interesting applications, but it is to say there's lots of different kinds of opportunity in the world of software engineering and application development, building tools that humans use in order to interact with computer systems, which is fundamentally what web development is about. And it's fundamentally what phone app development is about. And it's fundamentally what a bunch of app development was about before either the web existed or phones existed, right? That's not a field that's going to go away. So I think lots of people are right to be concerned that the technology landscape changes all the time, and it's kind of stressful to try and be on top of every new piece of technology that comes out. But a lot of the fundamentals of application design and development really haven't changed that much. The React is a lot easier to use, I'll say, than like Java Swing. But Java Swing existed 20 years ago, and we were building applications that fundamentally do the same stuff. Like IRC is not that different from Slack or Discord or any of these other chat applications. So if you're worried about getting outdated, you should, pay some attention to what's going on with the JavaScript world and, learn the ES6 features, learn the next ES7 features when they come out, right? Stay on top of that kind of stuff. Look at the new web frameworks. Don't learn every single one. There's no point in learning Angular and Vue and Mithril and React and Knockout and whatever. But learn a couple, and then you'll be able to find new jobs. When the new web framework comes out and it's time for you to switch jobs and you've been working on React for 5 years or whatever, and someone else at your next company's got the new hotness, you have lots of ammunition to say, hey, I'm an expert React developer. I know JavaScript very well. I'll be totally capable of learning awesome new web framework. And the employer at that company will say, yeah, I believe that. Absolutely. So focus on the foundational things that connect application development if that's where you want to be. You don't have to just jump into emerging technologies like AI because they're cool, right? You don't have to go back and learn a ton of calculus and linear algebra just to stay relevant. There's lots and lots of work being done by people who are more human focused, more focused on what it means to design a great application and make the interactions clear and good. And if you are looking for a change, AI is one good place to look. Software security is another amazing field that's going to be exploding. I mean, it's already exploding, but it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger the more technology becomes central to our lives, the more we're going to need to secure those things. Internet of Things is opening us up to a ton of new attack channels, right? Like Nest's got a microphone and that's vulnerable and no one knew about it. Okay, so security and AI are two really good places if you're looking for a change and you want to get into a new field of technology that's probably going to be strong for a while. Those are two good places to look.
Definitely. So the second part of this question, I wanted to ask you in terms of time management. As I'm a student, I get distracted super fast, and so you're thinking of completing the project, but you don't do it. So suggestions for time management and being able to complete projects on time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, so one half of this question is like, you got to just commit to having deadlines and meeting those deadlines and doing what you say you're going to do. And that level of commitment to yourself and to the people that you say you're going to be doing work for is super important. But there's lots of little tricks you can use too. There's plenty of productivity tools now. So if you don't use something like Asana or Trello or some other board where you make yourself tasks and move them across and feel progress, that's one thing you could look at. I haven't loved any of the tools that I use for that, but I've always found that having one is better than just forgetting about all the stuff that I said I was supposed to do. So use a tool, to help you manage what you think your tasks are. Use tools if you're like really distractible and you keep on checking Facebook and you keep on checking Twitter and you get distracted and your whole mental model of what you're working on collapses. You know, use a tool that blocks those websites from access for particular times of the day, and just make yourself not able to do those things. Something I do is like little notifications always bug me and distract me. I've turned off all the notifications on my phone and computer. Nothing pushes to get my attention anymore. I have times when I go and check those things. So, I check Facebook at a time and then I don't see it the rest of the day and it's not allowed to notify me about anything. I check my email a few times throughout the day, but it's not allowed to indicate to me, hey, you've got a new email. The only thing that can interrupt me is a phone call, right?
Nice. Good.
What do you do?
It depends. It depends on things are constantly changing. For instance, yesterday what's today, Tuesday. Yesterday, Udemy approved my Code with Node course, which has been out for a while on my
Nice.
personal platform. But now that it's on Udemy, it kind of opens up to a whole nother audience. So I've been handing out coupons for that and kind of monitoring how that's been going. So that's been taking a lot of my attention. So like the moment I woke up this morning, I was like just bombarded with notifications. But typically I'll just put my phone on silent, especially if it's time for me to develop. My biggest thing is not necessarily getting distracted. I've got that down just by ignoring my phone and, like you said, muting any notifications from like Chrome browser and whatnot. But the biggest thing for me is taking breaks, because I'll just get into a challenge. I'll start coding something and 30 minutes will go by, and my body's getting more tense and I'm breathing shallower and I'm more stressed and I can't think straight, and all I need is a 5-minute break to recoup and then come back and look at it with a fresh pair of eyes and say, oh, duh, there's that semicolon, that darn semicolon every time. So I have a tool called Pomodoro. So in Chrome, this is an extension, Marinara Pomodoro Assistant, and it's just this 25-minute intervals of work with 5-minute breaks. And so it just pops up, and after 25 minutes, it'll stop whatever I'm doing, and it'll say, hey, take a break.
Stand up.
Yeah.
That's smart. Yeah,
exactly.
I love that. You know, some people are really good at focusing for a long period of time, and then, you know, a lot of people just need to do 30 minutes, take a step back. Especially, you know, I would tell students, if you've been working on the same problem and you haven't made any progress for 10 minutes, you know, stop, take a second, stand up. You're not going to make a breakthrough by staring at it again.
Exactly right. Because I see students that they ask a question, they're like, I've been looking at this for 3 hours. I'm like, 3 hours?
3 hours? No wonder you haven't figured it out.
Yeah, like you should have stopped like 5 minutes in and, you know, asked this question before or jumped on Google or whatever.
Asked someone, made a Stack Overflow question. And that's another thing is like, one thing I'll do is I'll stand up from like my 5-minute break, take a walk around the block, and think about how I would ask the question to get an expert to answer the problem that I have. And in that process, just walking around the block, thinking about how I would ask the question, I go, oh, that's what I missed, you know?
Yeah, and whether or not you know it, subconsciously your mind is solving these problems. So you may walk away from it and start doing something entirely different, or take a nap or go to bed for the night and
totally
wake up in a cold sweat and you're like, oh, that's what it is. Rush to your computer and turns out that's what it was. So
totally. You know, it reminds me of an anecdote about Thomas Edison apparently would do this, where every once in a while, whenever he was feeling stuck or confused on something, he'd go sit in his chair with his keys, holding his keys in his hand, dangling over the floor, and just like wait until he started to nod off and fall asleep. And then he'd drop his keys when he did that. Dropping his keys would wake him up, and then he'd go back to work. And it's all about getting your mind out of slow thinking mode, where you're really focused and you're using a lot of mental energy, and getting into that state where your mind kind of just runs and plays and you're almost in a dream state, and you know, you're not really focused on thinking anything. You're just letting your brain do what your brain does. And then boom, once you reach that state, you can go back into focus and get a lot more out of it. So it's good to take breaks and get your mind out of the ruts that you get in when you're focusing on really challenging work.
Very nice. That's cool. So we have some other questions. Unfortunately, we don't have time to answer them today. We'll definitely try and do another session like this in the future. Of course, you guys can comment in this video, let us know what you thought and, you know, what you want to see more of or less of. And to those of you that didn't get your questions answered, sorry. I'll try to answer those personally just by sending you a reply. But I don't want this video to go on too long. So Tyler, thank you so much for coming on with us, man. Truly appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
For everyone who's watching, Tyler has a YouTube channel. I will link to it in the description below. He's got a bunch of cool content. He also has a lot of content that he authors on blogs. I will link to what I have, his Medium, and then as well as this Welcome to the Jungle article that I have right here.
And probably my website has links to all of those things and some open source projects that I have as well.
Yes, so we'll definitely get all those resources in the description. Make sure you check them out. And as mentioned before, my course is now on Udemy, so if you're a Udemy student and a diehard Udemy fan, I'll have the link for that. Otherwise, feel free to check it out for a much cheaper price on my personal platform, DevSprout.io. Thanks everyone for watching. Tyler, thank you so much for coming on, and we will see you guys all in the next video.